what I knew before I walked in the door today was one thing, and then I've actually learned more about some of the capabilities you bring that don't exist anywhere that I know of right now. And that may be a overly broad statement, but it's what I know. And that first piece of it that was immediately of interest to me is the edge piece. We're going to be fighting in environments in the future, and this is something we could not solve either in Maven or JAIC because we could not get through the power, size, weight, and power requirements to be able to put some of these models on platforms and sensors. All the analytics was being done at ground stations, and that was because that's where the analysts were. But it was obvious to us at the time that that fight of the future will be in an environment where you're going to be disconnected. You're going to have people trying to jam you, attack you, cyber attack you, physically attack you. You may not have access to cloud for days, if not maybe months at a time. I need to have capabilities at that edge. And define edge, people, different ways to define edge. But I would say from a theater level all the way down to an individual somewhere. And that person may be in a building doing cyberspace, maybe on a ship, maybe in an airplane. They've got to have the capability to be able to do that work on their platform or sensor itself. So that was so important to me. And then this other piece that I heard today that I just wasn't familiar enough with is sort of this optimization based on device. So the idea of being able, I'll just, the chart example of, hey, I want to know what combination of performance versus speed versus make cost based on this environment, this device, and I just can go click, and that's the solution we're going to go with. And you've already built that solution. So the idea of being able to pull off the shelf, basically a marketplace, for lack of a better term, and say, nope, for this Android, we need this. For this analyst environment that works on a very high-end GPU-driven workstation, this will work fine. But all of that has already been done and optimized. That's the secret sauce, right? And you've built sort of an MLOps platform that is also, as we were talking about, the scaffolding piece of it. So you've got an architecture piece, you've got an optimization piece, and you've got the edge work. Those three are, to me, is where we always wanted to go. We just couldn't get there. We got there because we weren't advanced enough yet, because we couldn't solve size, weight, and power, and people didn't have the techniques that you have at Latent AI that really say we can now do this on the edge.
Awesome. If kind of looking back on the day, what you already talked about some of the things you've learned and exciting. What do you think most exciting about Latent AI, and in particular our ability to support the department?
Well, I think just making a difference in the national security enterprise, and it's not just DoD. It's the intel community, which 19 different agencies or organizations, but even beyond that, Department of Energy. There are so many other parts of the government that are all sort of slowly trying to get into this space. The DoD, we were pushing hard because, one, it was the DoD. You had a lot of money, you had a lot of emphasis, a lot of priorities. But the other parts of the government have to move along. I would love to see Latent AI help make a difference in every part of that whole enterprise, the whole government, but for sure on the national security enterprise. Because these are the capabilities that are needed today, especially if we look at a fight. Whether the fight happens or not, we all hope it doesn't fight or happen. But if we look at a fight with China in the next 5 to 10 years, these capabilities are going to be critical, because we're going to have a threat that will be as advanced as any threat we've ever faced in our history, that will be equally well-versed on technology, that will know how to come after our technology. So the idea of Latent AI's security, the idea of encryption and watermarks, and some of the other capabilities you showed me today are all going to be selling points to the national security enterprise. So to me, it's about just making a difference. And it may be just enough of a difference, right? And we're not going to claim that this is going to change the game overnight. I refuse to use the word revolution when talking about some of these capabilities, because history shows over and over again that's never true. What happens is you get a relative advantage. And that relative advantage may be enough where you win the fight, win the battle, win the war, whatever, or lose if we're not ready for it. So that's a very, very grandiose view of this. But I think on a micro level, it's just day to day, how do you make better performance